Good evening and welcome to the Newshour Agenda. I'm Madhavdas G. Viewers, the game is appearing to get over for 26/11 terror mastermind Tahawwur Rana. The U.S. Supreme Court has rejected Rana's plea against extradition to India, and Rana had approached earlier the U.S. Supreme Court seeking an emergency stay on his previously allowed extradition. In the appeal application, Rana has contended that his survival chances would be insufficient for facing trial in India, citing multiple factors. Let's take a look at the reasons that have been listed by Tahawwur. The first aspect that he's talked about is that he will be tortured in India. That is the first aspect that he pleads. Let's move on to the second aspect that he talks about. He also talks about the fact that he will be tortured as he is a Muslim. The third aspect that he is also referred to is that he is a Muslim of Pakistani origin. And fourthly, he says he has severe medical conditions, which of course have also been invoked over here. He says that there will be torture in India which will lead to his death, is his plea before the Supreme Court. He's also, of course, made several other aspects as far as, the kind of legal precedents that have been cited, including the 28th of February ruling of the King's Bench Division of the High Court in London, which blocked arms dealer Sanjay Bhandari's extradition to India. Viewers, let's tell you who Sanjay Bhandari is, cited by Tahawwur Rana in his petition. Sanjay Bhandari is a UK-based arms dealer, and in fact Sanjay Bhandari is a person who's an accused middleman in the defense sector in several aspects here in India, offered a consultancy service to defense manufacturers is the charge that he is facing, and he's also a resident of India for tax purposes in 2015. He fled to the United Kingdom after facing charges of tax evasion here in India. He's been accused of concealing overseas assets as well. And this is the individual whose case has been cited. Remember that in December 2023, the Enforcement Directorate had claimed that Robert Vadra's link to Bhandari was pretty much there. The ED had also claimed that Bhandari's aide was a close associate of Vadra. Now, with, in fact, Tahawwur Rana submitting a renewed application to the Chief Justice John Roberts seeking a stay of his extradition to India after the top court rejected his emergency bid. Meanwhile, India is persistent in its resolve to bring back the Pakistan terrorist who has killed over 160 people in the Mumbai terror attacks. Listen in.
You would have seen President Trump's comments regarding the extradition of Tahawwur Rana. The joint statement, which was adopted during the visit of the Prime Minister, also reflects this sentiment. We are working closely with the U.S. government to complete the necessary formalities to allow for his extradition to India.
All right, let's take this across to our guest. Joining us is Sanju Verma, BJP's national spokesperson. Sushant Sareen is a senior fellow of ORF. We have with us Syed Asad Abbas, political analyst. Also joining us is Ashutosh Mishra, senior journalist. Let me start with you first. Ashutosh Mishra, can we take away from the fact that it was announced at that platform from the White House when Prime Minister Modi and President Trump were sharing the stage that Tahawwur Rana would be returned to India? It's a return that's taking place after the attacks of 2008. And certainly one will have to give credit for the diplomacy where it's due.
So if you are giving credit to where it is due, you should also remember that this extradition request was filed during the UPA regime in 2011. That due has to be given there also. Just see what has happened in case of Sanjay Bhandari. Extradition request filed by the Modi government in 2016. It hasn't been successful. It hasn't been successful in bringing back Malia, Choksi, Mehul.
We'll come to Malia and Choksi in just a minute. You're saying that, credit should be given to the UPA government, but the point is that that credit would be given if they were successful in those few years of the UPA in bringing him back. The point is that it's diplomacy that has worked over here.
So the question here should be that the request was filed in 2011. This government has been there since 2014. And Mr. Modi has been going to US again and again, and he has been close friends with Trump the first time also. So if all that credit has to be taken by Narendra Modi, then he will have to explain why such a long delay.
Okay, let me bring in Sushant Sareen on that. One second, before I go across to Sanju Verma and Syed Asad Abbas, I want Sushant Sareen to come in on this. Sushant Sareen, how does this really work? Do you agree with Ashutosh Mishra's contention that A, First, he was saying credit should be given to UPA government. They are the ones who initiated the extradition. Secondly, he says if Modi and Trump are so close, why didn't it happen in the first tenure of President Trump? Your response, Sushant, to that?
No, look, I don't know what is this this obsession that you give credit to him and don't give credit to the others. Yes, the UPA government did file an extradition request, and they were trying to pursue the case. But at that point of time, look, there were these two guys we wanted to be extradited. The Americans had flatly refused on David Coleman Headley. On Tahawwur Rana, because he was already serving a sentence out there, I think whatever extradition was going to take place after he had served his sentence in the US. That is point number one. And obviously, his sentence has just finished, I think, a couple of months back. And there was no way he could have been extradited at the time when the request was made by the UPA government. I think if you want to give credit to the UPA government. If the enemy of India is being brought back to India to be prosecuted out here and to be punished out here, I have no objections in giving credit to anybody. But again, as far as the NDA government is concerned, I would also then give them credit that they continued to pursue this matter. And they pursued this matter to a point where as soon as this guy had served his sentence, they pressed all the right buttons to try and get his extradition approved. And the American system, I think Trump had already come in by then, were more than happy to extradite him. I'm not very clear whether it was under Biden's time, but Trump certainly had no objections to extraditing him. Yeah. Now this guy is trying to somehow get around his extradition because he doesn't want to come back to India. If he doesn't come back to India, then he'll be released in the US. Right. Number one. Right. Number two, if he comes to India, then of course he will be put through the grind of the legal system. And he will get the punishment he deserves, because yes, this is not
that's actually the point I just wanted to bring in. And Ashutosh Mishra, end of the day, you may say whatever you have to as far as Sanjay Bhandari is concerned. It's a fact that he got relief from that court in the UK. But none of those arguments were bought by the Supreme Court of the United States, not even the Sanjay Bhandari argument. And that is a very, very important factor. Whether he was, talking about the fact that he's a Pakistani, that he's a Muslim, so on and so forth, none of those arguments cut any ice in the US.
I would like to show the mirror to NDA on this also, Modi government. If you remember, Pragya Singh Thakur, what did she say? That Hemant Karkare, a hero of 2611, died because of her curse. No action was taken against her by Modi. She remained the MP till last, and she was put on so many committees. So to try and claim here that all the credit should go to Narendra Modi and diplomats. Of course, Indian diplomats keep working whichever government is there. It's not that if the government...
independent, I mean, your concerns may be valid. What does that have to do with Tahawwur Rana's extradition? I don't know. Anyway, Sanju Verma, your response to him, he says that credit should be given to UPA. And why did India not act on Pragya Thakur, who made extremely controversial comments on Karkare, so on and so forth? Please respond.
First and foremost, I think Ashutosh Mishra is the newly minted credit GV. He might want to take credit for the UPA, as they say, being more holier than the Pope and more loyal than the King. That is what Ashutosh Mishra epitomizes, though he pretends to be a neutral journalist. But anyway, he's not important. The moot point is this.
No, the problem with you is...
The NIA... Now, you had your say. Please don't interrupt me.
Okay, one. Let's not get personal. It's okay. Let's not get personal. Sanju Verma, respond to the issue being raised. Yeah, please.
Yes, I'm responding to the issue, and I don't want to be heckled because I don't interject people. Thank you, Madhav. First and foremost, let's get one thing very clear. The NIA put in an extradition request in 2011. The UPA... The Congress-led UPA was in power till about May 2014. Nothing happened. There was absolutely zero movement on this count. And for somebody to be sitting here and saying that the Congress-led UPA deserves credit when in the 2611 horrifying terror attack, more than 174 people were dead, and the ex-Indian Air Force Chief, Fali Homi Major, is on record saying that the Indian Air Force was willing to avenge. It was willing to go into Pakistani territory and fight the Lashkar-e-Taiba. But Manmohan Singh and the proxy government of Sonia Gandhi refused to give permission. So please don't sit here and wax eloquent about the Congress deserving credit. Point number two, I just want to very quickly say this, that, we are giving a very violent man, Tahawwur Rana, back to India immediately. There are more to follow because we have quite a few requests. yes, we work with India on crime and we want to make things better for India. This is what Trump has said a few days back, acknowledging the ongoing collaboration between India and the United States on matters pertaining to terror and terrorism. Both Trump and Modi are very clear. There's no room for terror because there's nothing called a good terror and bad terror or good terrorist and bad terrorist. Whereas I want to remind Ashutosh Mishra that Ajmal Kasab ko jail ke andar biryani khilate at the expense of Indian taxpayers, who was raising the false bogey of, ye to RSS ki sazish hai after the horrifying 26/11 terror attack. Digvijay Singh is on record saying this is an RSS conspiracy. Sushil Kumar Shinde coined the term saffron terror. You have people like Shashi Tharoor coining the term Hindu Taliban. Had Tukaram Omble not captured Ajmal Kasab alive for decades together, we would have said, "Arey, ye to RSS ki sazish hai." So please get your facts right. After 174 people are killed, rather than lambasting the Congress government.
Let me bring in Syed Asad Abbas on that count. Syed Asad Abbas, there's been a tremendous effort to try and take away from the fact that this was indeed an international terrorist conspiracy by linking it to RSS, by linking it to saffron groups. It's a huge disservice that has been done. That is the thrust of Sanju Verma's argument. And also it's a fact that in this particular case, the government, which has made 178 requests over the past 5 years, different countries, it's a fact that this government has been pursuing these cases that exist on foreign soil. And it's never easy. There are challenges. In this particular case, if a challenge has been overcome and if the person is likely to come back to India, shouldn't we all as Indians be celebrating because he's one of the masterminds of 26/11 at the end of the day?
Absolutely. Madhavdas, there are no two ways about it. I've always believed in matters of national security and matters where it matters. To us as India, as a beautiful nation, we must come together. And yes, if Sanju Verma ji is screaming for credit, ma'am, I give you the credit, and the Bharatiya Janata Party government for, extradition of Tahawwur Rana. There are no two ways about it. But the fact is, ma'am, I did not interrupt you. Please do not interrupt me. But the fact of the matter is, let us agree on facts, ma'am. It was the UPA government which filed in the first extradition request. Of course, no doubt about the Indian bureaucracy, the diplomacy internationally has worked very well. Also, since you brought down Tahawwur Rana, now coming back to India, that's great. Ma'am, you're also looking forward to all the promises that you've made in the last 10 years. Where is Mehul Choksi? Where is Nirav Modi? And where is Vijay Mallya? No doubt Modi ji is a global leader. He's got great relations with the US, UK, so on and so forth, with all the respective universal countries and governments. What is the update, ma'am? Why don't we see?
Okay. I'm allowing that question one by one. Just let's go one by one, please. I'm allowing that question. The point being made by Abbas is that what about individuals such as Nirav Modi, Vijay Mallya? There are several such fugitive absconders who are outside of Indian jurisdiction, who, as the government has said, will be bringing back to India, but has not yet been successful. Sanju Verma, your response to Abbas?
Let's first and foremost get one thing very clear. I'm not sitting here to stand in solidarity with the likes of a Mallya or a Nirav Modi. But the fact is, thanks to the willpower and conviction of the Modi government, that Vijay Mallya, who owed the Indian government 9,600 crore, till date, more than 14,800 crores have been recovered towards principal and interest, which was overdue to Indian banks, thanks to Vijay Mallya's Kingfisher going belly up. So first and foremost, taxpayers' money has been recovered. Point number two, when you sit here and talk about Nirav Modi, this is the same bunch which has refused to acknowledge that there is a man called Abhay Thipse. He left the Bombay High Court as a senior judge, and within a month he joined the Congress in the presence of Rahul Gandhi. For the longest time, it is Abhay Thipse who's been fighting on behalf of Nirav Modi. So TV studio or TV debates par, the entire Congress Jamaat says,
respond. Abbas, respond quickly. Quick response, Abbas.
Quick response, ma'am. I'm glad you mentioned about Abhay Thipse. Very good, ma'am. Great. Well done. But what about terror accused like Pragya Thakur? You gave a ticket to contest elections, ma'am. If Abhay Thipse is wrong, then even giving a terror accused a ticket to contest elections is also wrong. So one side you speak of Rahul Gandhi's partner or supporter.
Let's not
There's also Pragya Thakur, ma'am. So therefore, there is also Pragya Thakur. Not just that, she also said that, she said...
Okay, we've raised that issue of Pragya Thakur. One second. Abbas, two wrongs don't make a right. But I want to bring in Sushant on a larger point. Sushant, of course, this is a success. No doubt about the fact that the Supreme Court rejecting Tahawwur Rana's plea is no doubt a shot in the arm for India, for India's agencies, and the consistency with our governments that have been practicing this. But at the end of the day, if there are cases also such as Sanjay Bhandari, which are embarrassing because here is a person, who is accused, who's wanted in several high-profile cases, some of them even politically linked, Vadra link, etc., that has come out, that have been alleged by agencies. Then somewhere or the other, there's also a question about how we are handling such cases and how do we avoid such embarrassments at international fora in the future.
Yeah, Madhav, in many cases, that is really the nub of the problem. I'll give you another instance. We got the extradition, again, to the credit of the Modi government. We got the extradition of this fellow Christian Michael, Michel, whatever the guy's name is, right? For 6 years, he was kept in jail. And then after 6 years, you did not even start a trial. Now, that goes to the discredit of the government. Either don't ask for extradition or make such a solid, foolproof case that you prosecute the guy and you make sure that you put him in jail for whatever crimes he has committed or whatever crimes he is accused of. But, to keep a guy in jail for 6 years and not, be able to even hold a trial, I don't see how we can then defend a case like that whenever we go for extradition next time. So that is one issue which I think the government of the day should hold prosecutors responsible for, and head should start rolling. Okay, that is one part of it. The second part of it is, in the case of these terror accused guys, look, you have to be rest assured that they are going to try and do everything possible to raise serious questions about the Indian judicial system. True. But the fact that I think earlier somebody was talking about this fellow who was hanged, Ajmal Kasab. The Indian judicial system went out of its way to ensure that he got a fair trial, right? You can't be more fairer than what the Indian judicial system did, where even during people who were involved in heinous acts of terrorism, the courts would open at 3 o'clock to hear a final plea. So that is the Indian judicial system. You won't be caught dead finding Supreme Court judges in the US doing something like this. But at the same time, just look at these cowards, these jihadist cowards. This Tahawwur Rana fellow had no shame in professing his Islam when he was plotting to kill hundreds of people and mass murdering hundreds of people. And now suddenly he feels that because he's a Muslim, he is now going to not get fair treatment. Right? Just look at his cowardice. Just look at his cowardice that he never thought for a second time when he was plotting the Mumbai attacks or the Denmark attacks or various other attacks he has been involved in, or he was hobnobbing with terror groups. But now suddenly he's a little scared little pussycat who's terrified to face the wrath of justice, which is what is going to visit him. I think that is also a lesson for many people. What a bunch of cowards these jihadists are, who sit in, their safe enclosures like these Hafiz Saids and these generals of the Pakistan army, who sit in the comfort of their headquarters and plot these dastardly attacks. And yet when it comes to having to, pay for their crimes, these guys are such scared little pussycats. I think that is also a lesson for us.
Absolutely. And in fact, Ashutosh Mishra, you want to respond to that? Because, the clear double standards of somebody who's, engaging in acts of terror quite willfully, knowing very well what the plots are. David Headley told him what he was actually using his firm's identity, etc., and the credentials for, knowing fully well all of that. He had no problems providing him logistical support and all other kinds of support. But he was very much part of that plot. Now he suddenly invokes that identity, saying that I will be targeted.
So, since you are talking about double standards, Sanju Verma hasn't criticized Pragya Singh for saying that Karkare, a 26/11 hero, died because of her curse. She hasn't done that. Talking about double standards and what Mr. Sareen was talking about Christian Michel. If you remember, Christian Michel had said that, this was before he got caught, that Modi had asked him to name Sonia Gandhi, and which he didn't. And that was that meeting he had
just for the record,
in New York.
Just for the record, you've not responded to the hypocrisy that Sushant pointed out either. But nevertheless, since you invoked Sanju Verma's name, I'll allow her to respond to you. Sanju Verma, your response.
Sushant Sareen and Ashutosh Mishra may have their own views, but the fact of the matter remains, and let your audience know this, that the 1993 Mumbai blast, where more than 250 people were killed, the key accused was a man called Abu Salem. The US had approved his extradition in 2004, but it was after more than 10 years, in 2015, that Abu Salem was finally extradited from Portugal to India thanks to the conviction of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government. So if you want to say that, अरे भाई साहब, Christian Michel का क्या हो गया? यहाँ पर तो ट्रायल भी चालू नहीं हुई. Please understand who got Syed Salahuddin designated as global terrorist during Trump 1.0. Modi government. Who got Abu Salem here under Prime Minister Modi? The first term. It is his willpower and his conviction which helped Abu Salem come back from Portuguese to Indian territory so that he could be behind prison bars.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Ashutosh Mishra, in fact, Syed Asad Abbas and Sanju Verma will stay with us for debate number 2. I'd like to thank Sushant Sareen for joining us on debate number 1 on the show this evening.